Okay, so as you've heard a few times, I'm Luke. I'm Luke Worthington. I work for a business called Third Space, a gym company. I'm the head trainer there. Also work for Nike as an ambassador for men's training and do a few other bits of consulting here, there and everywhere. And also write for Esquire magazine. So that's me, I'm Luke, I'm here with Roger.
Cool. Hey guys, I'm Roger Frampton. I did a TED talk called Why Sitting Down Destroys You. So you've got the audience standing
to a room
up.
of people sitting down.
Yeah, I love it. It works every time. So just before we start, you do have the option to stand if you want. Or you can just stay sitting. But the conclusion, I love it, he's made the choice. The conclusion wasn't that sitting down was bad. The conclusion is that when we go home at night, we can reverse the damage caused by long periods of time sitting down. So it wasn't like don't ever sit down, right? I just wanted to put it out. So you can sit down. Just make sure you undo it later. So I'm a movement coach. Someone asked me earlier, what's a movement coach? A movement coach looks at how humans move. So after studying in the fitness industry, I went off to study how kids move when they're learning to move. So I always ask people, who taught you how to move? And the answer is you. That's right. We taught ourselves how to move. I find that fascinating, and I try and get us to teach ourselves how to move again. So you're going to get a very different background, which is perfect, so we can give you completely different perspectives from our end.
So we've got a few sort of discussion points to go through. First of which is why people want to get stronger. What is the point? So why do you want to be strong?
Well, I believe that we want to get strong from a younger age. When we're born, this is our head. So we have to get strong. And if we don't, we're just going to be floppy all over the place. Then we learn how to sit in a squat, and we learn how to crawl, to pull ourselves from A to B. Then we learn how to stand up. And as a kid, you did this for hours and hours every day. You taught yourself how to walk. You walked into a few cupboards, you had some bruises on your head, you cried a bit. But that was fine. That was the process of you taking your first steps to becoming strong. I guess nowadays it's more about a visual basis why people want to be strong. But for me, it's more of a functional reason. It's something that this is essential to us as we get older. If we look at chronic disease, we see a lot of people very weak as they get older, especially 60, 70 years old. So for me, it's essential that, as well as becoming flexible, that we are strong, we're able to pick ourselves up from the floor when we fall over, which is again, something that elderly people struggle to do, to pick themselves up off the ground when they fall down. So yeah, so that's how I see strength as a functional aspect. I guess you can talk about it as a...
Yeah, well, it's much the same, to be honest. I mean, I see and always talk about strength as if you talk about fitness, like fitness and wellness and health and all that kind of stuff, people talk about, they say, oh, well, there's strength, there's flexibility, there's endurance, there's all of these different aspects, which is how perhaps you read about it in magazines. From my perspective, strength is kind of almost like the cup that all of the other things fit into. Without that, you can't really do any of the other things. You can't really be mobile and flexible unless you're strong enough to work within your own body weight. You have to have a strong platform to lever off. You can't do something, you can't generate endurance if you haven't got adequate strength. No one is able to, for example, run a marathon if they're not strong enough to absorb that repeated force they're going to perceive over and over and over again. Running is just hopping from one foot to the other foot ad infinitum, really. So unless an individual is strong enough to cope with that, they're just going to break down, which leads you on to another area that I tend to work a lot within, which is injury prevention, return to exercise post-injury, etc., etc., etc. Whenever I mention that, people always think, oh, that doesn't apply to me, like I'm not injured. If we look at it another way and say, does anyone ever have anything that bothers them, ever have a little niggle, or actually my shoulder doesn't feel quite right, I've got a bit of a stiff neck, or my lower back's bothering me? That's what I mean. I mean improving people's movement quality, which is something that Roger can relate to quite a lot. Strength is the cornerstone of that too. All right. If we want someone to move correctly and improve quality of movement, they've got to be able to manage that. We might go about it a slightly different way. I might give somebody an external object like that. We might start by something being that small, and then progress that, as opposed to working with my own body, but the outcomes are much the same. You know, strength is vital to everything that we do. Agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. If you think of the crossover, a lot of people, when I say I do body weight, they go like, "Are you against weights?" No. I come from I got into gymnastics about 6-7 years ago. They use their body as a weight, so they use a leverage system. So if you look at any of the gymnastic exercises, they aren't doing weights, but they're just using their body as a weight. They're just understanding leverage. If you know gymnastics, so if you think of an iron cross, a front lever, all the main exercises, especially in the men's discipline, they're just levering their body in certain ways, and then their body is the weight rather than picking up an external object. But the goal is really the same. You're overloading your body, which brings us on to
overload.
What is overload?
What is overload? Yeah, it's exactly that. If you want to elicit change in a human, which we're all humans, and if we're kind of involved in events like this and listening to people like us, then it may be that you've decided that you want to elicit change in yourself in one capacity or another. You need a stimulus for that, but a stimulus must be a change, must be a new stimulus. We have a baseline of activity, which might be at the moment sitting around not doing very much. It might be that we walk the dog for 20 minutes a day. It might be that we hit the gym 7 days a week. That's a line of activity, right, which will produce a result. If we want to change the output, we've got to change the input. If that makes sense, and follow that. So if my baseline is walk the dog 20 minutes a day, and I want to elicit change, I've got to do something different. So I've got to progress that, either in terms of the intensity or the volume or the load. So if we're talking about making somebody stronger, the way that we graduate that is something that we call overload, which is exactly what it sounds like. We're just gradually increasing the load that we're applying to that person, right? Which can be, you did something 10 times one week, you're going to do it 11 times the next week. That's one way of increasing it. All right, another way is I'm going to lift up that bottle of water that's half full, then I'm going to make it 3/4 full, and then make it full. Then it's going to be a dumbbell, then it's going to be a barbell, then it's going to be a car, or something huge. All right, that's overload. Okay, so if we want to change ourselves, we've got to kind of change what we do.
Yeah, 100%. And if you think about it, overload is you're tricking your body. Your body doesn't really want to change at all. But when we go to the gym, we can create. Bodybuilders can create these physiques, and you're just tricking your body. You're saying to your body, but your bicep is. We'll just take a bicep curl example because everyone knows it. Imagine your bicep as you go older is quite small. All kids have quite small biceps. You lift the weight enough times, and your body goes, "Oh, I need more muscle here." And then you trick it again, then you trick it again, and if you look at a bodybuilder, they're like, phenomenal. They've just overloaded their body, and the more you do it, the better you get at it. So it doesn't matter that even if you lift a heavier weight, unless you overload the system. If you just start swinging a dumbbell instead of actually squeezing the muscle and really utilizing it, then it won't change. And unfortunately, overload sits in comfort zone. So if you're running for a long period of time and that point where you want to stop, that's the point when overload starts to kick in. Or if you're doing your sit-ups and it's burning so much you want to stop, the point you want to stop is when overload is about to start. I think Muhammad Ali said, I count my sit-ups when it starts burning. So don't count your numbers. If it hurts, you'll overload.
Yeah, there's a saying that if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you. That's kind of what overload is. It's a constant progression, which is where I think if you talk about bodybuilders, some bodybuilders are just genetic freaks on top of that as well. But if they've got that whatever it is, that 30 kilo dumbbell, and they're working with it over and over and over again, that then becomes their norm. All right, so their 30 kilo dumbbell's got to become a 32, got to become a 34, become a 36, or they've got to do it 12 times instead of 10, or change the angle that they do it. They're creating overload in different ways. All right, and as Roger says, it's a systemic thing. So to overload a system, you've got to kind of know where its limits are, which is where things get a bit uncomfortable, which is what I think is when people get a little bit disenfranchised with exercise and thinking, oh God, I don't want anything. I want to do it, but I don't want to do anything that that's stressful, and unfortunately sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. And I'm a big believer in sort of balancing out what you do across a workout week or a working week. And if your goal is, right, I want to build a ton of muscle, or I want to get like super shredded, or whatever it is, which involves working at quite a high intensity in a gym environment or a studio or out in the park or whatever it is that you do, I am a big believer in create that systemic overload there, but also have some time at other points in the week where you might do something a bit more restorative. So you might spend, so if you were a model client out in the world, you might engage with someone like me for a few days a week, and you might engage with someone like Roger for a few days a week, and kind of balance out what you do and have this is going to break you down a little bit, and then we're going to restore you a little bit somewhere else. All right, that's kind of is a nice way of balancing out your week as well. Yeah, but if we are going to create systemic overloads, we've also got to fuel the environment that we work within, and we've also got me.
Hey! Hello. Hello? Oh, it is.
Yes, over to you.
So hi everyone, I'm Maeve Madden, personal trainer and nutritionist, and like I said, I've just come from the overload of the airport. But just joining the conversation here with the guys, it's very interesting, and for me, like working mainly with female clients, just like you said, it's really important to really mix up those workouts that you're doing. I know a lot of women are so afraid of lifting the weights, and I myself was at one point one of those women. But you kind of get over the fear, and it's, for me, I find, breaking that fear is like, gradually easing into it, just starting with even like just the simple weights. And and really mixing it up. It doesn't have to be that you're strength training every single day. Just you're gradually building yourself into it, still doing those things that you really love and you really enjoy, whether it be your spin class or your Zumba or whatever it may be. But there is such an importance of adding strength training into your workouts and overloading.
Yeah, it's kind of going full circle to what we talked about at the start. Why do we do that? I despite being a man, obviously, the majority of both the athletes and the non-athletes I work with happen to be women, and that's a hurdle that we kind of come up against quite a lot. Is, should girls lift weights? Yeah, they should, same as anyone else. People don't generate an enormous amount of muscle kind of by mistake. It doesn't sort of happen one morning they wake up and think, oh my god, like I've turned into a man. It's like saying if you just sort of go for a bit of a jog, you're not going to accidentally become Mo Farah. Like it doesn't happen that way. It's quite a long process, and people who focus a lot of all of their time and energy on achieving that, they've got to create a nutritional environment, a hormonal environment, a training environment to achieve all of those goals. They don't really happen by mistake. So yeah, it's applicable to everybody.
But I think that there's with women and lifting weights, there's very much that what we see online, what we see on social media, are all of these images of people who are competing and people who are professional athletes or bodybuilders, and unless you are following such an intense regime, or you have someone who's coaching you, or you're coaching yourself to hit that massive goal, it is very difficult for your body to get to that physique. I lift weights all the time. I don't think I'm manly.
Well, and also if we're gonna kind of go down that road and say, like, what you see on social media and the magazines and the rest of it, these people don't look like that for much longer than it took to take that photograph as well, which is something that's worth bearing in mind. That's like the pinnacle, right? That's not how they're kind of just hanging out when they're sitting on a beanbag on a beach in Shoreditch. That's on that particular moment. So
it could be lighting,
could be
shadowing, dehydration.
Yeah.
There are so many ways that people do get themselves there for that one shot.
Yeah.
I actually did a story. Okay, we're kind of going off subject here, but I did a story yesterday on social media. because I was talking with my phone and I had this like roll hanging over my laptop and I was like, oh, and then I was like, actually I stood up and the lighting was great. So I took a picture and I was like, no, that's terrible because that picture looks great and I looked like I was really toned, but in actual fact it was just the light and there's really nothing there right now. And I was just like, so I had a little bit of a chat about that, about how, you know, your body does go through, and especially with girls, like we go through, you know, our monthly cycles, and at different phases of our cycles, your body will, you know, respond better or respond worse to, you know, like your insulin levels fluctuate, everything fluctuates, even your body temperature, you know, in the first phase of your cycle stays very much the same, and so it's very difficult, not very difficult, it is difficult actually to, you know, to really keep up that like physique at all times. But the point is that what you're trying to do is you're trying to build, you're trying to become stronger, and that's, you know, that's, it may be just for like a few months, but it's really that your future that you're looking towards, because, you know, the more that you're lifting weights, the more you're balancing your body, the stronger your bones are becoming, and your future self will thank you for that.
Yeah, couldn't agree more with that. What about the nutritional side of strength training? So, yeah, it's what
wasn't as hot in Austria.
Yeah. So what if we're in question to both you guys and anyone else? How much importance do you place on like the nutritional environment that you create when either yourself or clients that you work with, when it comes to getting them stronger?
Yeah, I mean, if you just say, if we take back the concept of overload that we're just speaking about, and you go through this process in the gym and you pass the point of the burn, right? If you pass that and you don't feed your body, then you won't get the change, and your body cannot produce the extra muscle. Does that make sense? Or like whatever is needed. So imagine you just burn the crap out your abs, like, yeah, I killed it, and then you like starve yourself, right? Your body cannot produce the extra muscle, yeah? So obviously you need to have. That's why, you know, a lot of people eat straight away after a workout. They want to get that protein straight to their body and, you know, fill it, and then you go for that process again, and then you feed it. This is why a bodybuilder will need to eat 10 times the amount every 3 hours than, you know, the average Joe. You know, most people don't need to eat as much as a bodybuilder. Don't need to consume that amount. But if you're going to overload your body, make sure you feed it straight away, get that fuel straight in, and you're rocking.
Yeah, you know, like protein is the building block for our muscles. And although I've never trained as a bodybuilder, or I've never trained a bodybuilder, most of the girls that I train, so I actually don't train men, I only train women, and you know, they're all either, you know, looking to become healthy and stronger. Maybe some of them just want to become a little bit more toned. But one of the big questions that I get is, oh Maeve, why am I not, you know, why am I not seeing any results? Like, what's going on? Well, what did you eat? Oh, well, after I work out, I wasn't feeling hungry, so I didn't eat anything, and then I didn't eat anything for the rest of the day, and then I did a run, and I'm just like, no, you have to fuel your body. Your muscles aren't going to grow from air. Like, you have to, you know, you have to eat to, you know, to get the results, and you have to eat the right things. And you know, as myself personally, you know, I go through phases of being like really, really clean and just eating a very healthy diet, and then I do have those times where, you know, I'm on holiday, or, you know, nothing's really coming up in the next 2 weeks, and, you know, I indulge in pollen caterpillars are my indulgence. Those, you know, those things from M&S, they're like the ab killer. He like eats the abs. So, you know, so for me, it's like, it's very much just about having a really balanced diet, and you know, if you're wanting to achieve like great strength and, you know, becoming a stronger person, then, you know, you need to get a sufficient amount of protein in, and I always say at every meal. For me, it's every meal.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. I mean, you know, if anybody knows or not, or if the Fulfil people know or not, but protein comes from was derived from the Greek word of primary importance. So it's the most important nutrient that we have, and the rest. So we get that right, and then everything else comes into place really quite simply afterwards. When we talk about overload, this like progressive stimulation thing. What we're doing is, it might sound strange, but we are actually damaging ourselves, but we're just damaging ourselves in a controlled way. But we're damaging our muscles, we're stressing our system, and then we're recovering. So the recovery, what we do in between sessions is actually really quite important. Nutrition is a huge part of that. So if we don't, it's like kind of driving your car around in fifth gear, like just revving it and revving it and revving it, and just thinking, I'll just leave it outside and I'm just going to get up and do it again tomorrow, without thinking, do I need to like check anything in that, or like put some more fuel in, for example. So if we're looking to stress our systems, which we are, if we're going to overload ourselves to try and get stronger, we've got to create a nutritional environment which will facilitate recovery, which means replenishing what you've taken out. It's as simple as that. And the primary nutrient for all of that is protein. So yeah, every meal, especially after training, it's a non-negotiable as far as I'm concerned, with athletes, with non-athletes, everyone else that I work with. You've got to do that.
That's the way to go.
Cool. Thanks so much, guys. Thanks for attending.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.